Saw slammed his vapor flask onto the table, the metallic clang reverberating through the dimly lit bar. "Humans," he growled, his voice thick with disdain as he scratched his nasal ridge with a jagged claw, coaxing the last tendrils of yellow mist deeper into his lungs. He leaned back, exhaling a plume that shimmered faintly in the air. "A species of compulsive liars. If their jaws twitch, assume it's a fabrication." A chorus of amused tooth clicks rippled around the table as the other snicks, scaled reptilian traders from the outer rim, sucked on their own vapor flasks in agreement. Grumbles of botched deals and human trickery floated up like the fumes they inhaled. The younger ones, barely past their hatching, shifted uneasily, their tails flicking as they struggled to join the grizzled veterans' banter. The rest sat still, eyes glinting with shared cynicism. "I was hauling cargo to the Vasily Nexus," Sa began, leaning forward, his claws tapping the table for emphasis. "A human broker swore it was a prime gig, 400 tail lengths of premium Gondolian fiber straight from the beast's flank. Top-tier stuff, a haul that had set me up for cycles." A low whistle cut through the haze from Sarsi, a wiry snicked across the table. Sa jabbed a claw in his direction. "Exactly, 400 lengths, live sheared no less. I could have retired on that payout." "So what went wrong?" Sixt, a broad-shouldered snick with a scarred dewlap, rumbled. Sa's eyes narrowed. "Alpaca," he spat, the word dripping with venom. The table erupted, claws pounded the surface, sending vapor flasks wobbling as the snicks roared in outrage. "Alpaca?" Sarsa snarled. "They tried to pawn off that fluff as Gondolian?" "Liars!" Sa bellowed, snatching his flask for another hit. The yellow mist puffed out in an angry burst. "I rejected it on the spot, took my credits, and limped home. Spent the next 3 moon cycles clawing my way back from garbage trades just to break even." Her eyes, lounging to Sa's left, flicked his tongue dismissively. "You know they worship their deceivers, right? I dug into their archives. Some of their biggest legends are frauds and killers." "Name one," Lyra challenged, her scales glinting under the bar's flickering lights. Hrees grinned, baring a row of sharp teeth. "Ever hear of Kaisar, old human warlord? His tribe prized honor through combat, but peace had dulled their blades. No enemies, no glory. So what's he do?" Hrees leaned in, voice dropping. "He camps at the border, waits for some ragged wanderers begging passage, then butchers them. Claims it's an invasion. Slaughters them with knives, personal, messy work, and spins it into a war." Tails twitched. Tongues darted nervously. A lie sparking a conquest? Thousands dead on one human's word? No brood kin to call him out, no counsel to leash him. It was chaos unthinkable to a snicked. "They made him a deity for it," Hrees added, taking a lazy sniff of his flask. "An entire race of liars," Sarsi hissed, igniting a storm of muttered curses around the table. Stories poured out, tales of human promises shattered like brittle scales, grand trades gone sour, oaths of loyalty broken, wild boasts that evaporated under scrutiny. Sa's gaze landed on Lysri, an older snicked who'd stayed silent, cradling a nearly full flask of green vapor. He waved the group quiet. "Lysri, you've dealt with humans more than any of us. Surely you've got a tale to top this heap of dung. What's the worst lie they fed you?" Lysri inhaled briefly, letting the green mist curl from his nostrils like a slow leak. His voice was soft but cut through the din. "Go, I'm right behind you." A few snicks clicked their jaws in awkward amusement, expecting a punchline. But Lysri's stillness and the faint tremor in his tail silenced them. Sa tilted his head. "Explain. Worst lie." "That was it," Lysri said, repeating the words with a hollow edge. "Go, I'm right behind you." He scanned the table, meeting their puzzled stares, then sighed. "Fine, I'll tell you." He took a deeper pull of vapor, the green haze thickening as he spoke. "This was cycles back in the ex-Tali sector. I worked a mining rig orbiting a gas giant, H3 rich, a juicy target. My firm outbid the competition, so we built the refineries. Standard gig, nothing fancy. I bunked with a human named Lewis." He paused, a faint chuckle escaping. "Funny guy. Hope he'd call me a friend, but human friendship is a slippery thing. To some it's a casual nod, to others it's blood-kin deep. Me and Luis started rocky. I'd heard the stories, kept my distance, but our biomes matched, so we shared quarters. The rig was a hot spot for raids," he continued. Defenses held, but bombardments dragged on. Locked in the dorms, Luis taught us poker, a human game of bluffs and bets. I stank at it, lost heaps of credits, but he'd always hand them back. Just practice, he'd say. We'll play for real someday. He gave it back? I asked, incredulous. Lishri shrugged. Not kindness, strategy, no credits, no game. Kept him entertained, I think. He liked the chatter. Our tongues sync better than most species, no clunky translators. The flask swirled in his claws, green vapor roiling like a storm. First time he saved me, I braced for a debt call. Instead, he just grinned. You'll get me next time, right? He asked. Maybe that was his debt. Life on that rig was brutal. H3 leaks, cascading failures. I saved him once, too. Won my first poker game that night. Good day. Lyra frowned. This wasn't some human ritual. Not that I know, Lishri said, but we clicked after that. Worked shifts together, ate together, talked. Learned a lot about his kind. The lie, though, Sarsi pressed. Lishri's gaze drifted upward. Started normal, another bombardment. We're mid-poker when the whole station bucks. Luis says, that's off. I agreed. We cracked the locks, slipped through back tunnels to the command hub. Good thing, too. Past corpses and armored raiders on the way. Black Lance. A collective hiss rose. The Black Lance needed no introduction. Mercenaries who'd torch a system for profit. Lishri pressed on. Their own rigs got seized, so they came for ours. Luis had a plan. Hit the command center. Save who we could. We fought in 2 of them. Us with torches against their guns. Blood everywhere. He rubbed his dewlap, tracing old scars. Time was short. They'd radioed for backup. We're slaughtering everyone. We triggered the red alerts, locked escape routes for the miners. Then we heard boots closing in. Silence gripped the table. Lishri's voice dropped to a whisper. That's when Luis said it. Go! I'm right behind you. Green snot dribbled from his nose. He swiped it away, claws trembling. I ran. Trusted him. Friends don't lie, right? No one spoke. Lishri steadied himself, inhaling deeply. He wasn't behind me. I learned something that day. Humans lie to shield what matters. Sometimes it's greed or pride, but sometimes it's more. Their egglings hear tales of gift-bearing spirits, lies to spark wonder. They spin stories of afterlife to ease grief. No broodkin, no nest, just strangers and lies to hold them together. They're prey with no claws, no scales, he continued, but they hunt through deception. Lies keep their tribes alive. Calm the young, dodge predators, survive the dark. That final dark, they dread it most. Luis lied so I'd escape, so he could face it alone, knowing his lie saved others. He drained his flask and set it down. Their lies aren't all poison. That Kesar who he's mocked, his tribe was ruled by monsters, liars who preyed on their own. He tricked them, wrote laws to protect the weak, died for it. They made him a god to chain the wicked. The bar door banged open. A rowdy pack of humans stormed in, laughing and shouting for drinks. Lishri stood, waved. They cheered back, beckoning him over. He pulled a deck of cards from his pouch and joined them, greeted with slaps on the back and a fresh flask. The Snick sat in silence, the weight of Lishri's words sinking in.